Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopidana Vallabha Girivaridhari Jaya Gopidana Vallabha Girivaridhari Jasodanandana Brajajanaranjana Jasodanandana Brajajanaranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopidana Vallabha Girivaridhari Jaya Gopidana Vallabha Girivaridhari Jasodanandana Brajajanaranjana Jasodanandana Brajajanaranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paribrājakacharya Ashtotarata Shishimad Abhay Charanadavindam Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananda Kodi Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Iskcon Vibhuti Saṅghaṭṭina Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem se gaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sham Kund Radha Kund Giri Urdhan Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Shri Mayapur Navadip Dham Ki Jai Ganga Maya Jamuna Maya Ki Jai Śrīmati Tulsi Devi ki jai, Śrīmati Bhakti Devi ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai, Samveda Bhaktivinda ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So reading from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 10, entitled Maharaj Rahugana Meets Jaḍa Bharata. Text number 6. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, in this particular verse, the Sanskrit really doesn't have a meter, so it'll be hard to chant together. So what we'll do is I'll go through the verse one time, and then we'll do the word for word. Aho kaṣṭaṁ bhratur vyaktam uru-pariśrānto dīrgham adhvānam eka eva ūhivān suciraṁ nāti-pīvā na saṅghaṭṭina jarasā copadruto bhavān sukhe no evāpara ete saṅghaṭṭina iti bahu-vipralabdho pi avidyayā rachita druvya guna karmashaya swa charama kalevare vastuni saṁsthāna-viśeṣe mamety anadhyāropita-mithyā-pratyayo brahma-bhūtas tūṣṇīṁ sibikam purvavad uvaha. Word for word. Aho, alas, kaṣṭaṁ, how troublesome it is. Bhrātar, my dear brother. Vyaktam, clearly. Uru, very much. Uru-pariśrānto, fatigued. Dīrgham, along. Adhvānam, path. Ekaha, alone. Eva, certainly. Ūhivān, you have carried. Suciraṁ, for a long time. Not. nāti-pīvā, very strong and stout. Nor. saṁhananāṅgo, having a firm, tolerant body. Jarasā, by old age. Cha, also. Copadruto, disturbed. Bhavān, yourself. Sakhe, my friend. No eva, not certainly. Apare, the other. Ete, all these. Saṅghaṭṭina, co-workers. Iti, thus. bahu, very much, vipralabdho, sarcastically criticized, api, although, avidyayā, by nescience, rachita, manufactured, dravya guna karma ashaya, in the combination of material elements, material qualities, and the results of past activities and desires. Vacharmakal, in the body, which is moved by the subtle elements, mind, intelligence, and ego. Vastuni, in such physical things, saṁsthāna-viśeṣe, having our particular disposition, aham mama, I and mine, iti, in this way, anadhyāropita, interposed, not interposed, mithyā, false, pratyayo, belief, brahma-bhūtas, who was self-realized, standing on the Brahman platform, tūṣṇīṁ, being silent, sibikam, the palanquin, purvavat, as before, ūhivān, carried. Okay. Translation. King Rahugana told Jaḍa Bharata, "How troublesome this is, my dear brother. You certainly appear very fatigued, because you have carried this palanquin alone without assistance for a long time and for a long distance. Besides that, due to your old age, you have become greatly troubled. My dear friend, I see that you are not very firm nor very strong and stout. Aren't your fellow carriers cooperating with you?" In this way, the king criticized Jaḍa Bharata with sarcastic words. Yet, despite being criticized in this way, Jaḍa Bharata had no bodily conception of the situation. He knew that he was not the body, for he had attained his spiritual identity. He was neither fat, lean, nor thin, nor had he anything to do with a lump of matter, a combination of the 5 gross and 3 subtle elements. He had nothing to do with the material body and its 2 hands and legs. In other words, he had completely realized his spiritual identity, aham brahmasmi. He was therefore unaffected by the sarcastic criticism from the king. Without saying anything, he continued carrying the palanquin as before. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Jaḍa Bharata was completely liberated. He did not even care when the dacoits attempted to kill his body. He knew that he certainly was not the body. Even if the body were killed, he would not have cared, for he was thoroughly convinced of the proposition found in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, text 20, Nahanyate hanyamani sharire. He knew that he could not be killed, even if his body were killed. Although he did not protest, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in his agent, could not tolerate the injustice of the dacoits. Therefore, he was saved by the mercy of Krishna, and the dacoits were killed. In this case, while carrying the palanquin, he also knew that he was not the body. The body was very strong and stout, in sound condition, and quite competent to carry the palanquin. Due to his being freed from the bodily conception, the sarcastic words of the king did not at all affect him. The body is created according to one's karma, and material nature supplies the ingredients for the development of a certain type of body. The soul the body covers is different from the bodily construction. Therefore, anything favorable or mischievous done to the body does not affect the spirit soul. The Vedic injunction is asango hyayam purushaha. The spirit soul is always unaffected by material arrangements. Om ajñānitimirandasya jñānanjana shalakaya chakshurunmaditam jena tasmai shri gurave namaha mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate gadim yad kripa taraham bande shri gurun dinataranam paramanandamadavam shri chaitanyeshwaram. Hare Krishna. So, we see here that Jaḍa Bharata he's actually being criticized by the king, Maharaj Rahugana. Jaḍa Bharata was forced to carry the palanquin, and he didn't protest. And now he's carrying the palanquin and being criticized by the king for the way he's carrying the palanquin. I think earlier it's mentioned that he was not walking straight because he was attempting not to step on any creature, right? He was cautious not to give trouble to other creatures. So in that way there was a little bumpy ride for the king. And the king is becoming agitated, right? And so the king is very intelligent. He just didn't immediately become angry, although he was angry, right? But he controlled his anger and spoke to Jaḍa Bharata in such a way to manipulate him to carry the palanquin correctly. Isn't it? It's a manipulation. Oh, I can see you're a very old man and you're very troubled by all this, and you carried it all by yourself, when actually there's 3 other people to help him. So it's a criticism. It's a sarcastic remark. He's trying to manipulate Jaḍa Bharata to properly carry the palanquin, right? But actually he's angry. He's upset. His program is being disturbed, and therefore he's become angry. And he's resorted to this criticizing what he feels is the source of his problem, right? But Jaḍa Bharata wasn't affected. He wasn't disturbed by that criticism. Not at all, because he wasn't in the bodily concept of life. Generally speaking, when somebody criticizes us or speaks to us sarcastically, there's a reaction. We have this retaliation. Either we'll speak back to them sarcastically or we'll become angry, right? That is the response from the living entity that is in the bodily concept of life. But here we see Jaḍa Bharata, he didn't do that. He didn't become angry. He didn't respond in any way. He was self-satisfied. He was situated in his own self. Devotional service is to help us to come to this platform, to be situated in our a real identity as eternal spirit souls, and nothing to do with the material body. Being free from the bodily concept of life is not something that we can actually accomplish by our own efforts, right? Although doing devotional service is certainly beneficial for coming to that platform, but to actually realize that we're not this material body, it requires, what does it require? How do you come to that platform? To realize, how do you realize that you're not this body? Why are we absorbed, first of all, in this bodily concept? Why? Yes? Yes, we forget Krishna, and therefore Krishna has to do something with the forgetful persons, right? He's so kind, he just doesn't, vanish them. He sticks with them because they're his parts. They're not different from him, right? So, but they need to be rectified. They need to come back to their original consciousness, right? Just like if you have an infected small finger, your finger's infected. So you don't think, okay, I still have 9 fingers, the heck with it, I'll just ignore it, or cut it off, throw it away, or what. You don't do that. What do you go to the doctor, you get some medicine, you try to rectify your small finger so that it cooperates with the whole body again, right? So in the same way, the Supreme Lord makes this material world for those living entities that have forgotten their constitutional position, their real position, and they don't know how to act in the spiritual world. Just like if you take a laborer, sometimes they're building the roads and you see these huts that are there on the side of the road and they're filled with laborers. What they do is they bring people from other parts of the country that work cheaper than the people here in Delhi, and they give them some temporary homes so that they'll get cheap labor to build the roads or whatever they're trying to build, isn't it? Right? They'll bring them from Orissa or Bihar and pay them very less money. I mean, in fact, that's what happens. Now, if you take one of these persons and take them to a high society party of the Delhi politicos, would such a person fit in such a party? Huh? You stick out like a sore thumb, right? But if you really wanted to take such a person to such a party, Jaḍa Bharata Sarthi ki jai, Gaur-Nitai Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki jai, you would have to educate them, train them, polish them, right? I mean, after all, he's a human being. He's trainable. Put some nice clothes and polish his language, this, that, and take him to the party, right? So this material world is like that. We're like those laborers, each and every one of us. We don't know how to act in the spiritual world. We don't know how to, we don't fit there because of our fallen nature, right? Our rejection of our constitutional position as a servant of Krishna, we've come to this material world and falsely trying to control the material world and enjoy in the material world, right? So for us to be in the spiritual world would just be like the laborer trying to be at a party of the elite people of Delhi. Wouldn't work. Right? So Krishna realizing that, the Supreme Lord realizing this situation, he makes this material world so that the living entity can do two things. The living entity can try to play out his fascination with trying to lord it over the material world, and hopefully he'll become frustrated with such a thing, right? And then try to rectify himself, right? So it's a internment place for persons who don't know how to act in the spiritual world, and it's a place where people, where living entities can rectify themselves. So that process of rectification is mentioned in the Vedas. The Vedic literatures talk about performing sacrifices so that gradually the living entity can elevate oneself to become fit to again live in the spiritual world. But it's the prescriptions that are mentioned in the Vedas of rendering sacrifice, etc., is a very kind of long procedure, right? But by the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates, especially the 6 Goswamis, and especially Srila Rupa Goswami in Vrindavan, they've given us a kind of synthesized understanding of all the Vedic literatures so that we can very quickly come to the goal of the Vedic literatures, and that is to be rectified so that we can again associate with the Supreme Lord in the spiritual world. And especially in his book, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the Nectar of Devotion, which Srila Prabhupada summarized, the full, treatment for our material disease is very nicely outlined there, so that we can come to that process. But again, the point that I was originally making is that it's not simply by following the process that one can come to the standard. Right? It requires the mercy of the Supreme Lord. Performing bhakti, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, the processes of bhakti, they help us to attract the mercy of the Lord. But it's the mercy of the Lord that is what actually helps us, or is actually the requirement to understand that I'm not this body, that I'm an eternal spirit, soul, right? So there are certain things that are conducive to attracting the mercy of the Lord, and one of the chief processes is chanting of the holy name. Hare Krishna, Hare Without chanting the holy name of the Lord, it's very difficult to attract the mercy of the Supreme Lord. And without the mercy of the Supreme Lord, it's not possible to come to the platform that we see Jaḍa Bharata is on, of becoming free from the bodily concept of life. Jaḍa Bharata was convinced that he was not this body, that the body might be killed, but I'm not killed. I'm the eternal soul that's within the body, and that lives forever. Of course, one doesn't neglect the material body, because the body is like a very good vehicle, right? Yantra rudrani maya, that it's a vehicle. It's to help us go from, what does a vehicle do? It takes us from point A and helps us get to point B, right? So in the same way, this material body is like a very good vehicle. It's taking us from the conditioned state, and by the same use of the same body, we can become to the liberated state, right? So therefore, the body is important to the conditioned soul to help him get to the ultimate goal. And therefore the body has to be kept, has to be protected. Even if people, their goal in life is sense gratification, right? They're in the bodily concept of life, still they need the body to enjoy sense gratification, right? If the body is sick, the body is diseased, there's no question of enjoying sense gratification also, right? And that's the goal of conditioned souls, is to enjoy sense gratification. And therefore they're ready to do anything to protect the body. And if they feel that to protect the body, they have to stay home and not go to work, they're going to do that. Right? If somebody comes on and says, look, if you get out there and go to the market, you're going to get sick and die. Nobody's going to be in the market. Right? Because they feel that their body will be endangered. Right? Isn't that what's going on? But similarly, we don't also just throw caution to the wind, as they say. We also want to protect the material body. But there's a different reason. The reason is not for our sense gratification, but because we need the body to render devotional service. We need our senses to engage them in the pleasure of Krishna's senses, so that we can get from point A of not being fit to enter into the spiritual world to point B, where we can actually attract the mercy of Krishna so that we can go back home, back to Godhead. Right? So apparently it appears that the devotees are just like everybody else. Right? They're wearing masks and they're sanitizing their hands. Right? How many times you're supposed to wash with soap? 16 times? Right? Well, the karmi, sometimes they don't even wash their hands one time. I've seen it. In the West, here also, they go into the bathroom, they use the bathroom, they don't wash their hands, they go outside and have a hamburger. This is called muchi. Muchi. But even if one is such a muchi, right? That same person can become a suchi by proper utilization of this material body. And that is the process of devotional service. Srila Prabhupada took the time, took the effort to bring people from the muchi platform to the suchi platform. Right? What is a suchi? Someone who's clean internally and externally. Right? Internally by properly raising early in the morning, taking bath, one is a suchi. But internally also by hearing about the pastimes and the philosophy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one becomes clean internally also. So knowing this, Srila Prabhupada took the time and the effort to translate Śrīmad-Bhāgavad-gītā, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, so that people can have an opportunity to attract the mercy of Krishna. Right? By hearing about the Supreme Lord through these literatures translated by Srila Prabhupada, we become purified. We become more closer to understanding our real identity as a spirit soul, as Jaḍa Bharata did. So that, and it's a very practical thing, it's not something that's just in the sky, right? On a very down-to-earth, grassroots level, it's understanding these literatures will help us. And there's so many examples. Just like Jaḍa Bharata. He's being criticized by the king, but he's not affected. He remains equiposed. Right? Similarly, if we understand this philosophy, if we try to apply this philosophy in our lives, the things that happen to us, we won't become disturbed by them, right? Just in the ordinary course of our duties, even in interacting with devotees, someone may say something, right? Or do something that agitates us, right? If we're on the level of King Rahugana, and what's the level of King Rahugana? The bodily concept of life, right? We'll react like the king did, right? If we feel that we're being disturbed in some way, we'll retaliate by some sarcastic language, or we'll become angry, right? And someone who interacts with us like that, right, we'll give it back to him, right? They'll say something, we'll say something. Where will that go, right? It'll be a fight. So in order, on a very practical level, to avoid such circumstances, to become equiposed in all kinds of ordinary dealings, one needs to understand this philosophy, right? And therefore, on a very, very practical level, we can understand the importance of reading Srila Prabhupada's books. So, Srila Prabhupada mentions here that we get this body according to our karma, and the material nature supplies the ingredients, and we get a certain type of body. But we don't need to be limited by the type of body that we have, because that is not our real identity, right? We're not from Bihar, we're not from Orissa, we're not from America or any place else, right? That's not what we are. If we think we are, we're limiting ourselves greatly, right? Who wants to be from America? Well, maybe somebody does, but I'm from America, and I don't see any great advantage in being from America, right? It's not that if you're from America, you don't have birth, death, old age, and disease. Look at, I'm from America, I'm an old man, right? It's not like old age spared me or something. No, everyone has to experience the same thing. It's the body. So understanding that we're the eternal spirit soul is a great benefit to the living entity, right? But people don't realize that. We don't realize the importance of understanding that we're above the body. The statement that Srila Prabhupada mentions from the second chapter, the 20th verse, Nahanyate hanyamani shadile. Krishna was explaining to Arjuna that you can't kill your cousins because they're not the body. They're eternal spirit souls. In the same way, we don't die, right? Only the material body can die. Although we try to protect it for devotional service, at the same time we have to be firmly fixed in one realization, and that is the inevitable fact that one day this material body is going to cease to exist, right? The value of it is that while we're in it, we can render some devotional service. We can render service to Krishna. And if we do that service with attention, right, with our utmost sincerity, then there's a chance that by the mercy of Krishna and Krishna's devotees, we can attract the mercy of Krishna. And if we attract the mercy of Krishna, then we've made this human form of life successful. There's no other higher benefit that one can attain than attracting the mercy of Krishna through using this body in devotional activities. So I'll stop there, and if there's any questions or comments, feel free to ask them.
Haribol.
Yes.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for so succinctly putting across as to what should be our goal in Krishna consciousness, especially with regard to being at the spiritual platform. My question is very, very personal, pertaining to myself. Although he's seen the example here of King Rahugana criticizing Jaḍa Bharata about his being stout and strong and yet not being able to live in a sarcastic way. Having come into Krishna consciousness and we tell people about we are not the body and all that, but still if somebody makes fun of my South Indian accent or someone makes fun of my fat body, I get disturbed. So how does one constantly remind oneself about these sort of understandings to remain at a spiritual platform?
Well, we can change our accent. Can lose weight. Well, yeah, the idea is that we are subjected to these roller coaster rides of emotions due to our conditioned state, right? And that'll be there. It's something that we have to tolerate. Tongues tatiksha shrabarataha. You have to tolerate. Just like on a hot day, still you have to cook. When it's freezing cold, still you have to take your bath. Krishna mentions in the Bhagavad Gita. So in the same way, all these disturbances, they're going to come. It's not that because I became a devotee, I'm a devotee. How can you talk to me like that? Well, we're in the material world, and people are going to talk like that to us. That's the way it is, right? But when there's a goal, when there's a purpose, then we can tolerate for that goal, and we can tolerate for that purpose. Sometimes persons think, that's it. I'm not going to associate with the devotees. They spoke to me like that. I'm going home. Or I'm going to get a job, or whatever, right? But that would be the wrong conclusion, right? Therefore, Krishna talks about being tolerant. One of the main qualities of a sadhu is tatiksha, tolerance. Right? Number one, is it karunika second, tatiksha first? Right? You have to tolerate. You have to learn how to tolerate things. Even in your materialistic life, you have to tolerate. Right? If you want to make a marriage work, you brahmacharis don't ever have to experience this, but even if you want to make a marriage work, you have to tolerate. Bibi chorega netum. Right? But you have to tolerate. You have to tolerate. So if that's true to make materialistic sense gratification work, how much more it must be true to make spiritual life work? We have to tolerate. We should be tolerant. Yes, there's many different persons. They all have a different body and personality, based on their affected by the three modes of material nature from different places, right? Different conditionings, and they've come here with a common goal. So naturally there's going to be some friction, there's going to be some problems, but the key is everyone should have a common goal. And when everyone has a common goal, and that is the pleasure of Shri Radha Parthasarthi, then we can tolerate, right? Just like at wartime, there's so many disturbances. People are shooting at you. That's pretty disturbing, right? But you have a goal, the protection of the homeland, protection of the country, right? So because that goal is there, the whole army cooperates together and moves forward. In the same way, in a temple or in our movement, when the goal is the pleasure of Krishna and the mission of Krishna, then everything becomes tolerable. Right? But when we can't tolerate anymore, it's like an indicator for us, just like if you're sick, you have a fever, it's an indicator that there's something wrong in the body. In the same way, when we can't tolerate anymore the situation, right, there's something that is not right in our own Krishna consciousness that we need to look at. And we need to adjust it somehow or another. Right? And we should never think that because things are intolerable in the association of devotees, that if I go outside and associate with the karmis, it's going to be any better. Because the same intolerable situations are going to be there without a proper goal. The goal is going to be sense gratification, and Krishna says very clearly in the Bhagavad Gita, when your goal is sense gratification, it's frustration. So tolerance is very important. And it's really the key to, staying in association of the devotees and practicing devotional service with the idea that somehow or another we can bring some pleasure to the spiritual master and the Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Any other questions?
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. So one point is there, that here King Rahugan is condemning Jaḍa Bharata, but sarcastically. So when we condemn somebody in the name of praising, this is called Vyaj Stuti. That you are praising, but actually you are condemning, but in the name of praising. In the same way, sometimes we praise somebody in the name of condemning, and this is called Vyaj Ninda. So some devotees praise Krishna in the name of his condemning. So one devotee made a verse for Krishna, so it seems apparently that he is condemning Krishna, but actually he is praising. And Krishna likes this kind of praising also. So one devotee composed a verse, Gopal iti matva tvam prachura chhire vanchaya srito mato istana chhiram apilabdham na saknuyam. I thought that you are Gopal, that you are a cow herdman. You are maintaining so many cows. So I thought I will get much milk, so much milk. So I took shelter of you. But now my condition is such that now I cannot get the breast milk of mother also. So in this way, in the name of condemning that you have made me in such condition that now I cannot get breast milk of mother also. So this is in the name of condemning, but he is praising. This is called Vyaj Ninda. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Any other realizations, reflections, questions, comments?
Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you very much for explaining this situation further. And what I got from the class is two points I am going to take away is that in a situation which is difficult in dealing, especially either in material or in spiritual life, if I am in the bodily concept of life, I may react and angrily, and I can get a similar reaction, and it is not going to get me any good. And the other thing is that difficulty, intolerance means that spiritual life is not in a good situation. My spiritual life may not be healthy. It could be an indicator. And the solution which you gave was understanding philosophy. So how can this be further cultivated? Better understanding of philosophy, which by which Jaḍa Bharata could tolerate insults of King Rahugan.
Well, whenever you do anything, if you do it with knowledge, it's always better. Srila Prabhupada gives the example that many people go to the Ganga and they take bath. So whoever takes bath in the Ganga is benefited. But a person who goes to the Ganga, realizing that this water is flowing from the toe of Lord Vishnu and is very sacred and is purifying my very existence by taking bath, their benefit is even more. Why? Because they have knowledge. So by studying Srila Prabhupada's books, although we're engaged in devotional activities, if we understand what we're doing and why we're doing it, then our benefit will even be greater. And our progress, hopefully, will be quicker too. And that we'll be able to attract the mercy of Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Any other questions, comments? So one point we have to keep in mind is that why is this situation has taken place where people are afraid of the deadly disease, right? And to the point where everything is stopped, practically speaking. People are encouraged not to go to work, not to go out and do anything. So one thought that comes to mind is that people are very fearful, but they have created a fearful situation for so many other living entities that now it's payback time. How much the poor animals suffer because of the uncontrolled situation of people's tongues, right? Right? They have to suffer so much. And that reaction has to come back. So this is what we see. The reaction is coming. People are, now they're very fearful. Like the poor animals are also fearful for their life. Right? So it also is an indicator to us that although we're preaching and we're doing something, that we have to work harder, right? To help people understand the real situation in life, so they can give up all this the sense gratification and giving trouble to other living entities, and work on their actual self-benefit, which is to understand that they're not this body but the eternal spirit soul, just as Jaḍa Bharata gives the perfect example here. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Grantaraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanandi.
Bhima Prabhu ki jai.